Let's learn about nets. To help us understand what a net is, let's start off by doing a bit of exploring. So let's say that we have this oatmeal container. Now oatmeal can sometimes come in cardboard cylinders that look like this. So here we're dealing with a cylinder. Now let's say we want to take this cylinder and break it down and flatten it out to see what that looks like. Well, in order to do that, we don't really want to step on the container to flatten it. We want to break this down in a way that we can see all the different pieces of this cylinder without having to keep turning it all around. Well, if we take a look, we have a circle on the top and on the bottom. Those are the bases of the cylinder. If we start unfolding this cylinder, breaking it down, we would have a circle on the top and on the bottom, just like that. Now, what about this curved surface that goes all the way around? Well, say we just cut from one base to another and then unroll and flatten out that surface. Well, if we unroll that surface, it would be a rectangle. So we would end up getting something that looks like this. Here is what that oatmeal container looks like if we were to break it down and sort of unfold and unroll it and flatten it all out. If we take this flattened figure and refold it and re-roll it all together, we would get back this original three-dimensional solid. Neat. Now what if we did this with other things, like a cereal box? Well, if we broke that down, we may not get something that looks exactly like this. It may look a little bit different. Or what if we take one of those trapezoidal-shaped takeout boxes? That may look different too. This flattened out pattern that we just got is called a net. So let's take a look at the definition of a net. A net is just an unfolded geometric solid. So what we just created. It's a two-dimensional or flat pattern that could be cut out and folded to create a solid figure. Here, if we refolded and re-rolled this back together, we would get back a cylinder. Neat. Now, to help us get more familiar with nets, let's go ahead and take a look at a few more examples. Let's look at some solids and what their nets look like. So here we have two other solids and their nets. Let's take a look at the rectangular prism. We have the front here, the back, the top, the bottom, and the left and right sides. Now, say we cut along some of these lines and then unfold this rectangular prism. We could get a net that looks like this. We have the front, back, top, bottom, and left and right sides. If we take this net and fold that back behind the front, fold the left down and the top and bottom, we would get back this rectangular prism. Now, this net is just one of many nets we could create from this prism. Say we cut on different lines and unfold it. Well, we could get a slightly different looking net, but it would have the same information. Now, what about this pentagonal pyramid? Here, this pentagon is the base. Say we cut along those triangular pieces and then unfold that. Well, we could get a net that looks like this, with the base in the middle. And again, this is just one net we could get for this pyramid. If we cut along different lines and unfold, we could get a slightly different looking net, but with the same information. Now, why do these nets help us? How are they useful? Well, take a look at the math application. We use nets a lot in math to help us find surface areas of solids. The surface area of a three-dimensional solid is the area of all the surfaces. That can be hard to find if you can't see all the surfaces of that at once. So it can be helpful to break it down and flatten it out into a net. That way you can see all the surfaces at once and find that surface area. Now, you also see nets used in the real world a lot. Take a look at packaging items. Well, this rectangular prism looks a lot like a cardboard box. And cardboard boxes are great for packaging and shipping items. But what happens when you need to take all those cardboard boxes and first ship them to the warehouse? Well, it may be helpful to flatten them out into their net form first. That way you can stack them all out and ship them to the warehouse that way. Then when they get to the warehouse, you can fold them all back together and then use them to package and ship other items. Or you may also see them used, say, with a carpenter. A carpenter needs to be able to visualize a finished three-dimensional project and all of its pieces. So take a cabinet, a three-dimensional cabinet that he would need to finish. But he would need to know what all the pieces of that cabinet would look like. So it may be helpful to lay them all out as a net. Or architects might also use them. They can use them for creating blueprints of houses or buildings. So now we know about nets. If we take a three-dimensional solid and unfold it and flatten it out into a two-dimensional pattern, we get a net.